Something unusual is happening in the world of travel, and all eyes are on the United States. For years, the US stood tall as one of the most visited countries on Earth. But this year, the tide is turning. Familiar patterns are breaking, and longtime allies are quietly stepping back. This isn't just about fewer flights or empty hotel rooms. It's about shifting trust. In some countries, tourism is trickling back. In others, it's stalling or vanishing altogether. And beneath the surface, a deeper, growing unease. Nations that once looked to the US as a symbol of opportunity and openness are starting to second-guess that image. What's unfolding isn't random. It's part of a global recalibration. Today, we're diving into 7 countries that are rethinking their travel ties with America. Airlines are rerouting, students are rethinking exchanges, and government advisories are getting stricter. The message? America doesn't feel quite as welcoming as it used to. But before we dive in, I want to share something real with you guys. I am a brand new creator, stepping into this niche. And your support means everything. I'm not asking you to subscribe right away, just watch the full video. And if our content resonates with you, consider joining us by subscribing. Alright, let's begin with a longtime partner that's starting to show hesitation. Japan isn't cutting off the US, but it's definitely hitting the brakes. While tourism from Japan ticked up slightly in April, business travel told a very different story, falling by over 19% the month before. Exchange programs also dipped by 14%, and the reasons are hard to ignore. Japanese news outlets have spotlighted troubling airport encounters, like one engineer held for 6 hours at customs without clear cause. Reports of racial profiling and aggressive questioning have sparked discomfort, especially among professionals and students. Even seasoned travelers are reporting increased anxiety about visiting the US. The perception of safety and fairness at the border has taken a significant hit. Japan's foreign ministry even upgraded its advisory for US travel, urging its citizens to remain low profile due to rising social unrest. Meanwhile, Japanese airlines are quietly shifting capacity to Southeast Asia and Europe, dialing back on US routes. It's not a full retreat, but the trust that once made America an easy destination is starting to crack. Denmark's travel relationship with the US is starting to look like a tug-of-war. In April, tourist visits surged nearly 10% compared to the previous year. But that came right after a 34% drop in March. Business travel is shrinking fast too, falling nearly 30% just last month. Student exchange numbers remain low, with more Danish students now looking toward Canada and the Netherlands. The turning point came after reports surfaced that US intelligence agencies were monitoring Greenlandic independence activists, a deeply sensitive issue in Denmark. That revelation shook public confidence and triggered heated debates across Danish media. Many questioned whether the US still respected Allied sovereignty. The Danish government pushed back hard, summoning the US ambassador and calling it a serious breach of trust. That moment seems to have rippled out into the public. Danish influencers are calling for America-free shopping, and many travel blogs now suggest alternatives to US destinations. The US hasn't lost Denmark, but the enthusiasm is fading fast. Germany's travel stats to the US are sending mixed signals. April showed strong recovery. Tourism was up 23%, but in March, German visits to the US dropped by nearly 30%, making it one of the worst performers that month. What's behind this instability? A wave of negative headlines. One 19-year-old tourist detained for 12 hours in New York. A well-known musician interrogated in Texas. These incidents made front pages and raised serious concerns about how German travelers are treated. The stories are sparking national debates about racial profiling and immigration policy. German citizens are asking, is it worth the hassle? Germany's government updated its guidance, now warning that a valid visa doesn't always guarantee entry. Business travel is slipping again, with flight demand to California, once a favorite German destination, taking a sharp hit. Lufthansa is shifting more flights towards South America and Scandinavia. For many Germans, the US now feels more uncertain than inviting. Australia isn't walking away from the US, but it is slowing down. On the surface, travel numbers held steady in April, but compared to pre-pandemic growth, this actually reflects a slowdown. Flight Centre, a major travel agency in Australia, has reported a 16% drop in bookings to the US. Instead, Aussies are heading to Japan, Thailand, and New Zealand in rising numbers. Business trips to America have declined too, down 7% in April. The reason? Rising safety concerns, complicated border experiences, and increased scrutiny. Parents are even discouraging young travelers from solo US trips, fearing aggressive customs inspections. Stories of confiscated devices and hours-long questioning are turning people off. Australia's government has updated its advisory for the US 3 times in recent weeks, mentioning uneven security procedures and challenges faced by LGBTQIA+ travelers. Social media is full of stories from Australians who faced intense questioning or had to unlock their phones at customs. America still draws interest, but the glow has faded. It's no longer the easy pick it once was. Sweden and the US have long shared a bond rooted in cultural exchange. But in 2025, that bond is fraying. After a sharp decline in March, Swedish travel to the US rebounded in April. But the recovery isn't convincing. Business travel continues to slide, and fewer Swedish students are enrolling in US programs. What's driving the change? A broader shift in values. A recent poll found that over 60% of Swedes now view the US negatively. Concerns over civil rights, political unrest, and climate policies are turning public opinion. Swedish media is amplifying the narrative that the US is drifting away from shared democratic ideals. That message is resonating, especially with young professionals. Swedish companies are cutting back on US business trips and turning to virtual meetings instead. Influencers are promoting more value-aligned destinations, like Canada and Norway. For many Swedes, the decision to visit America is no longer just about travel, it's about conscience. France's cooling relationship with the US is no longer subtle. Travel dropped in both March and April, with business visits falling sharply by over 13%. French media has taken a harsh tone, with one major publication calling 2025 the year Americans lost Paris. Some travelers are taking symbolic steps, covering American logos or wearing Canadian patches abroad to avoid attention. US travel guides are selling less, and interest in East Coast trips has dipped noticeably. Even French artists and academics are skipping US conferences, citing ethical and logistical concerns. Events that once flocked to cities like New York are now heading to Berlin or Montreal. Instead, French travelers are heading to Greece, Spain, and Quebec. While Americans and French citizens still share deep cultural ties, political tensions are souring the connection. Many in France are growing frustrated, not with the American people, but with American leadership. The dream of America hasn't died, but right now, it's on pause. And finally, we reach Canada, America's closest neighbor, and once its biggest source of international tourism. In 2025, that connection is rapidly unraveling. Air travel to the US from Canada dropped nearly 20% in April, and land crossings plunged by over 35%. This isn't just seasonal, it's a trend driven by growing political friction. Comments from former President Trump about Canada becoming the 51st US state sparked outrage, and newly imposed tariffs added fuel to the fire. Even casual travelers are questioning the value of cross-border visits. Local papers are urging citizens to vacation domestically or head overseas instead. Canadian social media is filled with calls to skip US vacations and ditch Florida property. Travel to Mexico and Portugal is booming instead, and Air Canada is shifting flights south rather than across the border. For decades, Canada was America's most reliable travel partner. But now, Canadians are pulling back with their passports and their wallets. What once felt like a friendly visit now feels like crossing into unfamiliar territory. That wraps up today's deep dive. If you found this eye-opening, drop a like and consider subscribing for more global insights just like this. The world is changing fast, and sometimes the map tells more than we think. The US is still a major player, but the travel landscape is revealing cracks in its relationships. Perception matters, and so do policies. These shifts are signs of something bigger. Thanks for watching America Unfiltered. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.